Welcome to the new episode of All That Jazz, and I have with me Suzanne Brooker, or the first, I think, so, on his Facebook it says Suzanne Jane Marie Brooker. I like that. It's a long name.
That's on my business Facebook page.
Okay.
And numerologically, that works better for
Hmm.
business. And
Cool.
Jane is my middle name.
Jamie.
Jane
Jane.
and
Oh,
Marie.
okay,
Yeah,
Jane. How are you, Jane?
Jane's good.
Wow, this is good. I haven't done this in a while, but it feels good. So Suzanne, I think how did we get in contact? Was it a David Hawkins kind of connection or
Yeah, I think we were on various groups together of that ilk somewhere
mm,
along the line. You just get used to seeing people popping up and people's posts that you like, and I guess you just see more of it once you're doing that.
yeah. And we did message at some point and when I was going through some tough times, you were like messaging me and stuff. So yeah, I really appreciated that. And
No, you're welcome. I noticed you were missing.
oh, and also from the podcast scene, yeah, I was missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, I'm getting back into it, so here I am. And so did you start off? Let's start from the beginning. Did you start off like spiritual from when you were young?
Yeah, so as a young child, I had a lot of imagination. I played with, my cuddly toys. They, for me, came to life. And I was very aware of nature and animals and just the feel of there being nature spirits. I'm
Hmm.
not sure I can remember whether I actually saw that, but just being in tune with that. So I was quite happy in my own company. Um, And then you realize you go to school and you realize that the sort of things that is normal to you is not what everyone else is doing. So I think gradually I kind of got quieter and kind of shut down
Mm.
um,
Did you
way of
daydream?
talking about things, about energy, because it wasn't until I think I read the Celestine prophecy in my late teens, early 20s, and it talks about seeing energy and stuff. And I didn't realize other people couldn't see it
Hmm.
until they were showing you ways or telling you ways of how to do that. So for some people, obviously that's more natural than others. I mean, obviously that comes and goes, and at different
Yeah.
points in my life, I can't see energy, and other times I have been able to. But yeah,
Oh,
I
like around people, like or
yeah,
places?
seeing colours or auras or just being aware of so like if I'm healing or something, I get like prana or like the energy, like when the TV used to go off years ago, when it did go off and it went all pixelated,
Oh yeah.
like I can see that, or I can see Wei Chi, so the energy, clear energy and that's mainly what I was able to see around trees and people to an extent, and plants and things like that, more out in nature,
Hmm.
more being able to see that kind of extra energy that goes on around everything, like there's no end to it, if you know what I mean. It's not just nothing was just a solid kind of object.
Right. Wow. So
So
did you try ever talk to friends about this?
I think a bit maybe, but you turn into a kind of awkward teenager and the topic of conversation is not, that
Yeah,
kind of thing. It's more
because nobody
boys and
talks about this, right? So then you would be the odd person out that would talk about this.
yeah, absolutely. And I went to an all girls convent school, so it
Oh,
was pretty
okay.
hardcore with their strict religion and
Oh,
bitchiness and all everything that kind of went with that. And my ideas about how the world worked were already quite different.
yeah.
Believe in God or Jesus or universal energy or consciousness or source or whatever you want to call that. There is a divine
Mm,
energy to all of that, but it's not a man for me sat in a cloud.
right. Did they have like You said it was a religious school. Was it Catholic? Was it
Yeah, yeah, strict Catholic school.
oh, okay. Did they have any I suppose they wouldn't have any spiritual advisors or anything, anybody that would mm, I mean they had a priest probably associated with the
We
school,
had a priest, and we were taught by some of our lessons were taught by nuns, and our headmistress was a nun.
right? They
But
were probably
you
very
get the
strict.
standard
They were probably very
Catholic,
strict. Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
the Catholic Bible teachings that they wanted, and it felt like indoctrination, really. So I'd kind of, my
Mm.
cousin and I used to walk up to church on a Sunday because, that's what we were meant to do. And we used to go and hang out in
Yeah.
the park on the way, slide in at the back of church for the last 10 minutes, find out what it was about, and then go home. So that's what a lot of us did. We did it
Okay.
enough just to be able to go to school and say you'd been to church, if you like. I mean, it opened my eyes up to a spiritual nature in the world, but it didn't feel putting the fear of God in and that kind of dogmatic, this is the way and the only way, didn't
Yeah.
ever sit right with me.
Yeah.
And that's
I
fine if
mean,
that's what people love.
yeah.
I'm not bashing it. It's just you've got to find your own way within that. I don't believe we have to go and sit in another institution in order to worship or pray or meditate. It's something, your home is with you wherever you are. That's how I see it.
Right, right. Well, I on the other hand was fortunate that I never had a there was never a big emphasis on the downside of religion, or so I thought when I was growing up, where in my area. So yeah, I kind of enjoyed it. But then after 15, at age 15, I kind of moved moved away from it as you do, because my parents weren't going to school because they're deaf, partly, mostly that's the reason why they didn't go. And my grandparents in the same house, they went every Sunday. And my grandfather would volunteer and he would collect the money, So very steeped. But I didn't mind it. I
Was that
enjoyed it.
Catholic?
Catholic, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've since broadened my horizons to other Christian denominations and all that, but
Yeah, of course. It's just, I think I've always just had that curiosity of
yeah.
there's definitely something
Yeah.
beyond us, and there's definitely a divine order to things, and there's definitely the energy of your own spirit, higher self, that or source that you can plug into in all of it, because we've all, some of us, you included, will have experienced things that you can't make sense of in the material world.
Yeah.
And that we're all energy beings and we're a spirit in a meat suit, not the other way around. So,
Um, so when you talk about source, what is your understanding of source? How do you see, like, you said you don't see God as somebody standing up on a cloud, a man. Um,
feels like the all-knowing essence of consciousness that we're all part of. So we all have that God spark within us, and we all have our own spirit
hmm,
within that, our own spirit, our own soul's journey, and our own kind of ego personality to go with it. But we're all connected to that universal source of energy, the field, where we can all tap into that the higher order, the divine, I guess, the divine
mm-hmm,
energy of seeing the bigger picture, being able to kind of look at things from a much broader view rather than all the stories and belief systems and stuff that we can get so bogged down into in our
right.
daily lives. When you kind of have the capacity to zoom out and connect to that energy of show me, you know tell me, have me feel, and then something shows up. That's the plug-in for me, whatever that is. I don't think we even really have a word.
Like a guidance that you're
It's
asking the
that
universe
properly.
for
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
Yeah,
guidance. And
like
that could be my own higher guidance giving me answers.
yeah, okay.
But it's that plug into that the God within all of us, that divine spark that exists within us all, I guess,
Mm.
is that, connected to field of consciousness that we can all plug into.
Mm-hmm. So
And
how
I
did
think
you
when you're on the
find
same frequency, sorry, and
mm,
wavelength with somebody, and you could be thinking of someone and then they show up, we call them synchronicities, but actually you're in the same frequency. So you kind of catch the wave, if you like.
mm. Yeah, it's very easy to see in a way when you're not on the same frequency with somebody, or you might be in a relationship, or you might have a friend, and then you start to be distant. You start talking about different things, and you kind of grow
They
apart.
grow apart. Hmm.
Yeah, you've had that happen.
Yeah, and I think that's necessary to get used to people coming and going. I think that as human beings, we hang
Mm.
on to things
Yeah,
for sometimes the wrong reason. We can't see that actually breaking up can be a blessing. We're kind of
okay,
just trying to stay safe, depending on, what your life experience is like, especially, how you grew up and stuff.
right.
You're in a kind of safety net of what feels right for you to be involved in, people that you want around, those people that, you love, and then you split up and
Mm-hmm.
you're lost for a bit. And then after a while, you're like, well, okay, I've learned something from that. I've learned how to grieve. I've learned how to move forward, and I'm learning how to love myself now. And actually, then realizing that the relationship potentially was, not right anyway,
Mm-hmm.
or was never meant to be anything more than what it was.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people, and it happens to everybody, stay in things longer because they have commitments and children, and
right.
it gets
Is
a bit more
is
complicated.
It's very, very common. Yeah. But I don't know, it's in a way I'm in two minds about that when he's mentioning kids. I don't have kids personally, but I think like if a couple can sort of make it and be together until the kids are at least uh adults or semi-adults,
Yeah.
if they can, without killing each other, that's probably good for the kids because then I've heard some statistics that say when the couple breaks up that the kids don't do as well. But then, it's a sacrifice. Like, when people talk in professional sports making a sacrifice,
Hmm.
it sounds silly, but actually they are in a way because they could be doing more better for them individually, like play more minutes, score more points, have more personal credit, but they take a step back. Yeah, it's funny
I
how
think it would depend on the health of the relationship.
yes.
But obviously, yeah, you choose to have children, you're responsible for them, and you are making a sacrifice, and they do come first because you're choosing to bring, human beings into the world. It's a huge big deal. And I would, sacrifice and have sacrifice for my own children, of course. But I think it can also work if people split, if both parents can be adult about that.
Hmm.
It's all the pettiness and fighting over money and stuff like that that really
Yeah.
just then gets in the way, and people forget to see the children in that. And that's, for me, is still the most important thing, is how is this affecting the children? Can we
Yeah.
do this amicably? You
Mm.
know, I haven't been through divorce, so obviously I'm, just hypothesizing, if you like, but looking
Yeah.
at friends of mine that have split, and the ones where it was messy, of course the kids are going to be messed up and both adults are messed up. But the
Mm.
ones that have been able to remain, grown up, or at least civil or friends even, the relationship is actually healthier than if they'd stayed together for the children. So I think
Yeah.
yeah, it depends. But
Yeah, it does really depend. Because sometimes the couple splits apart and then they don't ever communicate or they avoid each other, and I've
and then
heard
the kids are
stories like
stuck in the
that.
middle.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
horrific. Or there's this point scoring, or it's and then, and
Yeah.
then some of that can become very materialistic, and kids get, money instead of love. And yeah, it's a whole
Mm.
can of worms, isn't it, if it's not managed properly. But then, you got to think on a soul level, maybe there's a choice in there somewhere.
Yeah, maybe you could say maybe the kids chose to have like a crisis in their lives to, or to grow up quickly and to bear the burden of that trauma, that responsibility at that early age.
Yeah.
Um, did you ever have a like a crisis moment in your journey when you were like, oh, I can't do this anymore, or this is too hard?
Um, well, I had a weird experience at 17 while I learnt to drive, in a near car accident. So I had a complete out of body experience.
Oh wow.
So I was going, I don't know, about 40, I guess, down a main road, and a car just pulled out of the side. And obviously, I'd only been driving for a few weeks. And so I slammed my brakes on, and our cars skidded up the road. We never actually touched, probably only a couple of inches apart, literally. But I was watching from here in slow motion, and it was black and white and pixelated. And I just watched this thing happen. And I ended up on the bit of the curb on the road where it got wider near the park entrance, where the rest of the pavement was narrow, and then slammed back in my body and sat in the car stationary and just thought, shit, if I was a cat, I just lost a life. What's
Wait,
what was that?
so nothing were you like what happened? Did the a car actually collide, or did you swerve out and
No, we were just swerving sideways up the road next to each other. I ended up mounted on the curb, and the other car drove off.
they
So it was
they
literally, I was driving down a road, they pulled out, I slammed my brakes on, and then we just skidded
okay.
for ages. But
And
it
they
was a slow motion.
and they
It was,
just did they just get it out, like they didn't care. They just left.
no, they just drove off.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
And I sat there for, I don't know how long I sat there for. And I don't even remember driving home after that, but I did, obviously.
that's some bad driver karma right there.
Yeah. I didn't go where I was going. I went back home. It was just like, I was just saying to my dad, I don't know what's just happened, but this isn't this. But they're kind of used to me having weird experiences, and I used to,
Right.
say stuff like, "Who's that just walked up the stairs?" And my mum would be like, "There's no one." It's like, okay, saw a woman walk up the stairs, or I'd be going off on funny astral trips and stuff in my sleep, and wake up, like I'd never been to bed. But again, that was just
Right.
normal for me because I didn't know that's not what you did, and my parents were kind of used to me saying stuff like that.
Does my camera
So
look a bit weird? My out of
it's a
focus,
bit
but it's okay.
fuzzy,
It's okay. Fuzzy
bit
logic.
fuzzy.
So that's cool because I've never actually seen anything weird at all. Like I do believe in God and I have a lot of spiritual beliefs, but I've actually never seen, and maybe it's a good thing because I think I'd freak out a little bit if I'd seen something really, really crazy. And I'd be like, whoa, like I don't know. It just maybe it's protected me because I haven't seen anything, I haven't seen any energy around. Not that I know of. I mean I felt things,
Depends what the
you meet
sense you're in.
you meet somebody and you have a negative feeling and or something doesn't make you feel right, so yeah, or you walk into a cathedral and it's an amazing energy. I felt that, yeah, but not visually seeing anything. Yeah.
So so your clair senses, your psychic senses, obviously there's many. It's touch,
Okay.
taste, sight, sound, smell. You can have any of those be dominant. For me, you've got inner sight. I have a knowing sense, which is, what you have, and a feeling sense. I can
Yep.
sense energy, I can sense people's emotions. Um, and actually, sometimes, being a sensitive child, you're kind of navigating through that is can be quite difficult. I don't know, were you a sensitive child?
Yeah, as far as interacting with people.
Mm.
at home and all that stuff.
But that can be
Yeah,
tricky, can't it? When you feel everybody else's emotions, even if people are not saying stuff, you can tell kind of what's going on by the energy. So then going into school and then trying to fit in and, you know, especially teenagers, they're saying one thing, but you can feel that they actually mean something completely different.
yeah,
That's hard. I think that's hard. I think being a teenager for anybody is hard.
yeah. I think we should make a like a camp, teenager camp somewhere. Or I always thought as a joke to put to send some kids up to well, this might be cruel, but maybe just for a short period of time to North Korea or someplace and live under the same conditions that North Koreans live to gain some perspective, getting
Yeah,
ration meals, no entertainment on TV, um, no really adequate furniture, they're living in a prison, the whole country. So,
just to get
uh,
an idea of how, you
lucky
know,
they are. Yeah, to
how
gain some
lucky they are.
perspective. I think
Yeah.
that'd be really cool.
Yeah, I
'Cause
think that or doing some kind of mission work or, some kind of volunteering or something like that. I think that should be part of school, really. I think that would be great. Or
yeah,
or even things like, go and have a week on a monastery in a silent retreat
yeah,
for a week and see how in
yeah,
touch they can get with their own personality and then beyond that their own spirit just by being silent for long
right.
enough to get through the inner chatter and break through that,
I think most
how we
people
talk
can
to
do it.
ourselves.
I think most people can do it. They couldn't do the they couldn't do
No, I would
stay
find it really
silent.
hard not to speak.
Yeah.
I'm a talker.
You ever went to a silent retreat?
Sound retreat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Silent retreat where you didn't speak for a period of time.
Oh, silence. Sorry, I thought you said sound. No, I haven't actually. And it is something that I would like to do still at some point. I
Yeah.
think I will find it really tricky because, yeah, I like to talk.
I went one time to 5-day silent retreat meditation thing, and it was great. It was the best retreat I ever went to, and it was hard at first to not talk, but yeah, it was
Did
really
you
good.
find that? So, that first couple of days of not talking, were you very aware of your inner dialogue and how you spoke to
I
yourself?
I don't know. It was 10 years ago. But oddly
Okay.
enough, after that, I stopped shaving my beard, so that I've had the beard ever since. So I don't know what that's about, but yeah, it's um yeah, there's something to avoiding certain things. Like now they have in the Muslim tradition they have Ramadan, in Catholic they have Lent where you give up something, but
Yeah.
people do it for spiritual reasons, renunciation, renouncing the world. Um, what is your so going back to the out of body, did you have an understanding what happened when you went out of your body?
For me, that was the nudge back to work on my spiritual stuff, to get back on my spiritual journey.
Yeah.
And actually, I felt, it was just like, get on with it. Let's, show us something, get on with it.
Get on
And
with
then my
what?
connection to, the flow of the things that were for me kind of started to show up. I mean, I went and did a job and college and all university for a little while and all of that, but I still had my spiritual practice going on and I read, all sorts of books. And one of the earliest books I guess I read was more things like Shirley MacLaine. Have you read Out on a Limb?
No, I know who she is. She's an actress that does
Yeah, she
past
is. And she
life
had a big
stuff on herself
spiritual
mostly. Yeah.
awakening.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she has her own kind of personal spirit guide that's been with her forever. Um, and I remember reading them when I was, sort of 19, 20. Let's do the Camino. I'd quite like to do that. Some of the Camino trail at
Oh,
some point. That's
you did that,
still
or
on.
you want to do? Oh,
No, I'd
okay.
like to.
Oh,
That's
I
on my
did it
bucket
last year.
list.
I recommend it.
Oh,
Highly recommend it. Yes.
how long did you do?
Um, I did it from Saint John, the port or something in France. So just very close to the Spanish border, all the way to Santiago. Took me 31 days.
Wow,
Yeah,
amazing.
it
Yeah,
was an incredible experience. I recommend it to anybody. It was really yeah.
yeah, that is definitely on my bucket list of things to do. That's been on there since I read the book. So, and then I read a lot of Paulo Coelho, and then started getting more into, learning about massage and holistic therapies. And then I was trained in more physical therapy, like physiotherapist, but that wasn't my title. Um, and then just realized that again that I'd gone back into kind of mainstream therapy, and that
Mm,
wasn't it still.
right.
And I realized certain things with clients that weren't shifting, and that I could just tell they were emotional or mental or spiritual. And then I found Body Talk about 20 years ago.
20.
And
Wow,
I was
that's a
like,
long time.
oh, yeah. So, oh, okay, this makes sense to me. Learning about the consciousness of the body, and that we're just energy and hundreds of trillions of cells interacting, and that every single part of your body has its own personality and its own way of functioning together. Um, and that just made so much sense. It was a little bit like, oh, that's my thing. This is where I'm going with it. And then I just added divine healing, Rahanni Celestial Healing. I teach that as well.
Hmm.
And then I go into teaching all the other spiritual, psychic development, all sorts of things that I do now, because it's all just that plug into the higher energy of helping people see a bigger picture, helping people develop their own
Right.
way of being in the world. Living in the day that you're in, that took having cancer for me to really get that,
Wow, cancer,
for
huh?
me
That
to
is,
really understand the practice of that, because I thought I was doing it before, but not really.
yeah, it's very easy to get into that kind of coasting. I've heard it all, I know I have the knowledge, but then not really practice it.
Hmm.
That's so common. Like
And I don't think you always know that you're not really practicing it until
right.
something else happens and you think, oh, okay, this makes more sense now, actually. And I can see the reason why that is really helpful, especially if you're in the consciousness of something that's got a massive fear consciousness around it, like cancer. It's very easy to get sucked into the energy of that.
Mm.
Um,
So
Having
cancer,
the process of not getting
right.
sucked in is really useful.
When did so you had cancer like was it years ago?
So I had cancer. I think that was diagnosed in 2021. I had, and it went from small to big very quickly. So it was nearly as big as a tennis ball. So I had that removed. Um, uh, yeah, so that was through a few years ago now. And then I had a recurrence that happened last November, and I'm on that kind of journey again at the
Hmm.
minute, but it feels completely different this time. Feels more like yeah, I'm living in the day that I'm in. It feels more like and it probably sounds cheesy, but it feels more like a spiritual journey this time, where
Mm.
I'm feel like I'm making conscious choices. Like I feel like I'm tuned into my higher energy of what feels right for me, and navigating it from that space, which is completely different to how I went navigated through it before.
Hmm.
And anything like that, whatever, you know, thing that comes into your awareness, is going to it completely changes your life, and you have to look at things differently, and you really get what really matters and what really doesn't.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
the importance of being in the energy of what feels right for you, and the things that don't. If you can't obviously have certain people that, sometimes you can't just move away from certain people, but you can find that within you. Where's my part in that? What part of
Mm,
that am I responsible for healing? Where can I not pick up the ropes? I don't get annoyed or drained, or, it's about having your own energetic boundaries at the end of the
mm,
day, and doing the work. So, I work on myself spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically. It's
right.
not just the physical body. That makes no sense.
So would you say that in 21 when you got cancer, was it that you think that you didn't do enough work at the time, or was it related to the lockdowns and
Well, my ego got in the way to start with, and
you
I was
ego
just
got in the way? What do you mean?
my ego. Well, I was a bit like, well, I do all this spiritual work and I do all the stuff. So why
Oh,
why have I got cancer? Feeling a bit like a bit of shame that I would get
mm,
cancer.
mm,
And then I sat with that, and then ended up just giving myself a bit of a mental slap, just like, well, why not you? You're human, for goodness sake. There is no shame in it, but there's a lot of noise from 3D, so conventional medicine, and some of that obviously is useful.
mm-hmm.
And then there's a lot of noise from too far the other way, what I call just love and light only, think positive and everything will be fixed. That's lovely if people live like that. And I'm trying not to sound like I'm bashing it, but we are human beings having an experience, and we have the light and the shadow, and we have the stuff that we have to sort out. You can't just spiritual bypass over the top of things when and if you think of the iceberg, what we are experiencing is the tip that we can see, but all the stuff below the surface is all the baggage and all the unconscious, subconscious stuff that we're not necessarily aware of. I need to
Right.
go to other people to help me dig that out. I can
Could
help
you
others do
explain,
that.
would you explain this, what spiritual bypassing is in layman terms? Like,
It's kind of whitewashing over the top of that I've got no problems and I'm a fixed superhuman
oh,
love and light only being, and
and you're
I'm in a
repressing.
new paradigm and I don't need to look at any of that stuff anymore. Well,
Yeah.
I don't buy it.
Right, because you're
Like, everybody
stuffing
has
it
to
down.
listen. Yeah,
Yeah.
stuffing it down or just pushing it over there or dissociating or whatever. I don't think it's healthy. If you've if you're facing your stuff and you're going through it and you get to a space of enlightenment and a bigger picture understanding, and then even if you get something bigger going on like cancer and you're in a better space with it, then yeah, you have evolved to a certain degree, and you are more light in your being. I would say this time around with cancer, I feel I've learned a lot from it, and I've evolved, and I've dealt with some of the shadow stuff, but there's, still going to be stuff
Mm. So
to have to sort out. You've got to
yeah,
bring the balance to that.
the first time when you got cancer, what do you think? Was it the biggest lesson was just to wake up that you haven't really been doing spiritual work? Is that what it was?
But I had been. It was like, well, why has this come along when I am doing my
Mm.
spiritual work?
Right.
um and that feeling, a bit of shame from that, actually being shamed by some love and light types of
Oh, why do you have cancer? You shouldn't have
yeah,
cancer. Yeah, you're a failure because you have cancer. Oh my God.
exactly. You're
Oh
doing all
wow.
this work, and why would you have cancer? And I remember seeing at the same time as me in the first time around, um uh, I'm actually not going to mention names. Somebody really well known in the spiritual realms had cancer, and another really well known person who's more out there in her views, um, was bashing the other spiritual worker for having cancer. because the one that had the cancer said something like she's taking one for the team. And actually, what she meant by that was sometimes, especially when you're in the public eye, you're going through something in order to help other people. It's just sometimes you're a student, sometimes you're a teacher. You go through another learning experience that could be illness, and then you help others to move through it, to have another, so that you're evolving through that.
Right.
And the fact that this lady, she's a human being. So
Mm.
why she's not going to live forever. She's going to get ill with something or another. So
Yeah.
it's just another layer of stuff that she's going to bring up. But this other person was a bit like, well, I'm never going to get ill because I'm doing the work and I'm not false light. And it's just, it was, I was a bit,
Is
I sat with my mouth open, like, what is this? It was just awful to witness, and there was a divide of people joining in and some people sticking up for the person. I just thought this is just awful. um and I guess I kind of fell into that a little bit, like, yeah, I feel like, well, why have I, but I'm not Buddha. I'm not sat on a hill fully enlightened,
right.
light body turning into a pile of clothes. I'm a human being going through the process of my shit
Yeah.
and what needs to come up, and stuff that I didn't realize was still buried in my subconscious, because sometimes you don't know what that is until somebody else helps you tease that out.
Yeah. So you feel like it's helped you, uh cancer has helped you refocus your spiritual practice and maybe
It's
be
helped
even
me.
more dedicated?
It's helped me deepen it.
Hmm.
It's helped me. What was really out of balance, so, was that I was an overgiver, and a lot of therapists and practitioners are. That's really the lesson. The first time round was the overgiving.
Right. Right.
So there's many reasons that you can get cancer, and they're never going to be just physical. It could be physical, genetic, emotional, mental, and spiritual. So those are the pathways that you need to look at when you've got any type of illness. Then you're looking at where is it in the body, and then you've got to heal from the consciousness of that part of the body, of why that illness is in that space.
Mm-hmm.
And then where in your body are you supporting that? What can you change about your diet and lifestyle? What can you change about your mindset? How can you heal, the spiritual stuff, the ancestral stuff, the soul's past lives journeys, and it's exploring all of those pathways. But if you go down the conventional route of cancer, all you're looking at really is the pathways in the physical that you're trying
Yeah,
to
that's true.
block or heal, right? But
But sometimes it's not. Yeah.
it's a much bigger picture than that.
Mm.
I eat well. I still got cancer.
What do you eat?
Well, I eat, a balanced diet of, lots of green, leafy greens, and, meat occasionally, but it's grass fed and proper butter, you know, trying to get a balance of all the vitamins and minerals and stuff. And where I'm out of balance with that, I'll take decent supplements.
Right.
But you've also got your genetic imprint. So when I look
Mm-hmm.
at that, you can have tests done for that. And again, you can change your genetics if you know what you're dealing with. So for me, from a genetic perspective, my methylation pathways don't work properly. There's a gene mutation called MTHFR.
Right.
Um, so basically, I don't convert things into the right vitamins and enzymes, and
Okay.
there's obviously a much bigger explanation than that. And also, my detox pathways don't work very well either, genetically.
Mm.
So now I know that I can work on, well, if I'm going to take a supplement, it needs to be the methylated kind that's already had that process done, so that my body then can utilize what it needs to, right?
Mm.
So some of my genetic imprint is predisposed to breast cancer.
Right.
So that's one pathway, but also, I've been on another healing journey of where it is in my body, and it's the left side, and it's mother-daughter stuff back through the generations, the stuff that I picked up from my mum and her mum and her mum's mum.
Mm. So it could
The
be
imprint
multiple
of that
factors.
suffering that's gone
Mm.
on.
Yeah.
And I actually thought I'd healed that. And I went to see a lady that I felt drawn to going to see, who it was fantastic. And when you've been a therapist for a really long time, you have to find a healer's healer. You have to find somebody that can hold
Yeah,
space where
yeah.
I can't get in the way of knowing what's going on, because your brain just is 10 skips ahead. I just wanted to go somewhere where somebody didn't know me,
Yeah.
could just take charge of the session, and I just go as, a client. And yeah, we touched on that. She was doing sound healing and all sorts of timeline therapy. And out of nowhere, just like the biggest, ugliest, snotty tears you could imagine just came out of somewhere, though I had no idea was still in there for me to
Mm.
process. Went on for a bit. I went on a journey where I could see the timeline of me, my mum, my mum's mum, her mum, and see the kind of pattern of why she behaved like that, because she behaved like this, and that's because of her upbringing of this and this and this. And that baggage goes back and back. And then the influence of the patriarchal energy entwined and all of that. I just had this kind of massive vision
Mm.
of what that looked like. And then my relationship with my daughter, and trying to maintain a health to that whilst she's 19, so she's becoming more and more independent. So obviously that has sticky patches, and then patches very, very close again.
Mm.
Once I really saw the wounds, underneath all of that, every single person was on their soul journey, just wanting to be loved, feel safe, feel connected, belong. And they played out their baggage and
Mm-hmm.
projected their stuff at people through their own wounds. So when you get underneath that, you can see that everybody was doing their best with what skills they had.
Right. So you had, so the second time you got cancer, was it and so the lesson was similar, or was it a bit different
So
this
now,
time?
so that's now. This is what I'm
Yeah.
going through now. It's more finding a way of living with it without going into that fear, and really
Mm-hmm.
going through the deeper process of it, and digging up what needs to be
Yeah.
dug up on every level, spirit, emotions, and just go in there
Mm.
with it, not just thinking, well, let's just get this surgery done and do a bit of work and have some help. It's you have to do the inner work really properly. And
Right.
if that is going to be your pathway, you've got to sit with it and really work out why it's what's going on for you and what you're learning from it, and then what you can help other people with.
Do you do kind of meditation, or when you do this inner work, you say, so is it obviously these sessions with people, but also you do kind of prayer, or you meditate in a specific way
Yeah, I
to do
do
inner work?
both, or all of those. What I find is, so the first time around, I felt a real disconnect spirit for
Mm.
a while. Like I couldn't find myself in it, and I was looking outward for help
Yeah.
more because I lost my own um, intuition, if you like, for a bit.
Mm.
I couldn't see my way through it, and there was so much noise from both sides. Do this, don't know, watch this video, don't
Right.
read this book,
Right.
like, la. I didn't want to look at any of it in the end. Whereas this time it was, it came along again, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna be bothered. Not like I was going to check out or anything, but it's just like, oh, it's long. I don't know if I can be bothered. And then I sat with that for a few days in that energy, and I just thought, well, that's not going to work because I
Mm.
feel with it. That's not going to help energy move. And I just thought, right, come on, you can do this. Let's just get on with it. And I hadn't lost my, connection. I haven't lost my, and actually, it's actually deepened. And I tend to dream, or I wake up and I'll get a download or some insight into something, and then I'll meditate and I'll sit with whatever it is that showed up. And then what mostly happens with that is then I'll go and share it and teach it in my groups.
Mm,
So I get a download, I have my shift, and then I go and share it on.
right. So
So
other
that
people can
is the
learn.
process of, yeah, of then me also having that practice being mirrored back at me from other people that I'm helping with that too.
How many people do you teach?
Um, I keep my so I've got on a group running at the moment called The Magic Within You, and I keep them on like 10 and under. I think we're 8. Because it's personal and I really want it to be about the people that are in the group and for everybody to be able to share
Yeah,
and get something from it. When I run my meditation groups, it's kept within a kind of circle of people that I've taught over the years, a lot of Rahanni practitioners. And sometimes there's 5, and sometimes there might be 15.
Rahanni. What's Rahanni?
They're more intimate. What's Rahanni?
Yeah,
Did you say?
yeah,
Rahanni Celestial Healing was brought to Earth, if you like, in 2002 by a lady called Carol Stacey, who is now 80 something. She had a visitation. She was on her own spiritual journey and she'd been going to classes and learning her own skills
yeah.
spiritually. And she had a visitation in the middle of the night from Melchizedek and went off on some astral trip, um, being shown the energy that they were actually allowing us now to have back on Earth since the fall of Atlantis when it was all being misused.
Right.
um, that we're now getting ready now to move into a new paradigm. So we're in the age of consciousness now. We're
Mm-hmm.
in the age of Aquarius. We're moving forward in our kind of psychic awareness, and that
Yeah,
energy goes with that. So Reiki's earthbound as a healing energy, still brilliant. Rahani's more fifth dimensional, where we're headed. So we see what's going on in the world. We can have our own where we stand in that. And it's like, okay, and then where am I being a conscious creator
right.
of what's coming next? Where are we putting our energy into? So it's bringing the energy of the angelic realm, if you like, into
So would that be able to change DNA on request and stuff like that, or is that a different
it would,
paradigm?
yes, but it more in the fact that it would bring more of our DNA online, right?
What do you
Because
mean?
we get told we've got like 2 strands of DNA working, but
They're not
there,
working.
there are many more than that are working,
Oh,
but many more strands of DNA within us that are
dormant.
able to be active. Yeah, that are
Oh,
dormant.
I didn't know that. So
Yeah.
we
So
have
you
DNA,
can
but it's not
develop
even
that.
active. Okay.
Yeah. So but there are, people who are more spiritually aware will have more than the 2 strands of DNA working.
Oh, I
So
see.
suddenly you will have that inner sight and that sixth sense and that sense of knowing, and people that can channel light language and, you know, any of those kind of abilities are extra abilities that we are capable of. Telepathy, all
Right.
of it,
Because we're connected.
levitating.
So we're
Yeah,
like David Hawkins' map of consciousness, he says over I think over 200, which is the level of integrity, you start to get the etheric brain becomes active. Where before the etheric brain is not active, but the etheric body is active, from my understanding.
yeah.
So that's interesting, isn't it?
So
That
then your DNA would be coming online, really, if you like,
mm,
become more consciously aware.
okay,
In so if you think before COVID, humanity was at about a level of 200 in the levels of consciousness,
right.
then it dropped to, the levels of fear and anger, so
Really? You
50,
think it dropped?
65. A lot
Mm,
did, yeah. And then a lot of people stayed in fear. A lot of people have seen a much bigger picture to this
yeah.
and a lot of other things that have gone on. And I've made so many. amazing connections with people all over the world since this whole period, and our levels of consciousness will be, you'll be higher up the levels, getting more into the realms of love and peace and joy and courage,
Mm,
actually push through all of this stuff that's going on in the world. And then you meet more of those people, and I think we can still slip back into fear, of course, but we don't
right.
stay there. It's about not staying there.
Yeah, I think the world to a large extent seems to have moved on from the because they see all the fear and all that, and it doesn't seem like I think we're moving on from that. Like in 2025 now, people don't care. Most people don't wear a mask anymore, and whenever I
Yeah,
see somebody with
exactly.
a mask, you can still see they're still holding on to the fear from 2020, but it's
So
5 years
we've
later.
adapted because that's what human beings do. We adapt
Yeah.
and we get desensitized to things.
Do you think do you think the I haven't taken the vaccine. Have you taken the COVID vaccine?
No,
Do you
no.
think the spike proteins are really because they talk about I've heard a statistic that the the number of excess deaths is higher now in UK and other countries than it was before prior to COVID. So that's interesting that the excess death is much higher now than it was before. Maybe it's because of the spike proteins or maybe there's
Well,
something.
it's going to be, some people of whether it was a virus or a biological weapon or whatever it was, some people obviously did fall ill from the thing, whatever you want to call it. And, I personally, because I was working in clinic until 2021, back to back doing the physical therapy, and, there's a lot of people through my clinic that are very vaccine damaged. I mean, these are people's bodies that I've worked on for years, and I know their bodies as well as they do. And the
Right.
change was enormous. And then seeing that unfold with other people around me.
Yeah.
More the point is, it's not about whether you had it or not have it. Those people that have had it now and then now they're vaccine damaged are largely being ignored by the powers that be to actually get help in,
Mm.
medical help in them getting well again. It's like they've like, oh, we don't want to look at that, so let's push that over here. That's what's sad.
I
That
think they're
people that have,
investigating though. In US they start to I think the Kennedy guy, Robert F. Kennedy
yeah,
Jr. is starting to investigate if the vaccines do any damage, like all vaccines, not just the COVID
yeah.
vaccine. And that will
I mean,
be
you're always you are gonna have damage to a certain extent with any toxin
yeah,
chemical because it's not natural to a human being. So most medicines are made out of something that's in the natural world. But
yeah,
in order to make money from it, they have to make a chemical version, right? So
yeah.
they can patent it. You can't use the herbs and make loads of money out of it because it's a natural substance. So
Yeah, and they were saying the ivermectin is bad. And I remember there was a controversy when Rogan took it and all that stuff. Anyway, it was a whole paranoid media landscape, and that kind of I think not inspired, that made people fearful. That made a lot of people fearful.
hmm,
But I think we're turning a page, and because of Kennedy being there in the position in the U.S. government that he is.
yeah, that's a good
I
thing.
think I think it's starting to change the public perception, and a lot of people don't
Yeah.
buy it anymore. Which
I
is
think whatever your views
yeah,
are of what's going on in America is that Robert Kennedy Jr. is a good thing and that we keep him safe to do what he's set out to do
yeah,
and changes that because he's been in that game for many years of fighting lawsuits and all sorts of stuff
oh yeah,
aside from him being in the news now. The issue is the media is all owned by the same people worldwide. So you get fed the news that controls the people, right?
Well,
So they've
but now
gone
we're
all
also
out
the
to
media. I
bash
could
Rob.
say I'm the media too, you know.
Well, yeah,
That's the
exactly. So we've all looked for alternative sources rather
yes.
than looking at the main news because and that's what that's people must find themselves in that and what feels right for them
Yeah.
and to use discernment and know that we're coming out of that kind of institutional conditioning type learning
Yeah.
and learning to look at a greater awareness and where do I fit into that and where's my vision and where's my purpose in that and what am I
Mm.
doing to it's that focus, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that people can grow out of the this is what you must think and this is what's true and this is what's not true.
Yeah, I think
So
some people call it legacy media, like the media that's had a history, long history and all that is well established. But nowadays it's not, it's changing. People are not watching legacy media as much than following, you know, everything that the BBC or ABC, NBC in US or whatever they say. People don't follow as much anymore. Even, you know, they used to sell so many New York Times newspapers and all that stuff, but nowadays they sell a lot less than they used to.
yeah,
Um, but I'm
I think it's a dying
yeah,
business in that
right.
sense. And even if you look on the news channels online and then you'll get a report out of something and you only have to look at the comments underneath and see how much people are just like, oh, really? Well,
Right.
yeah, but and then they're showing up to it. The people are now questioning things. It's just like good. It's refreshing.
It's good. I mean, it took the lockdowns and all that for some people to wake up, and some people didn't wake up, and like you said, they went into fear. But I think this year has been uh changing in a good way. It's been yeah, life changing. And it's been predicted by, I don't know if you know Alice Bailey's work, the
Miss
White
Bailey.
Brotherhood. Alice Bailey, she Theopathy, and there's a book or reference by Dr. Hawkins called Glamour, A World Problem, and he said that some of in the book, Glamour, she said 2025 is the year when some of the social, economic, and other problems will start to get resolved or will be resolved actually. So I think we're seeing that now that it's changing in a big way. Like Kennedy's there and you know all the yeah. Um, it is amazing. I'm
Yeah, and actually, we've got some, really good doctors in this country that are helping in that mission. Like you've got Dr. Asim Malhotra. He does a lot of work with Kennedy,
yeah,
and he's one of our top cardiologists, and he got outed because he was trying to stop the vaccines, right? He took the first two.
yeah.
His very fit and healthy father, who also a consultant physician, died after the second vaccine, and it didn't make sense to him, so he investigated it, and he died from the vaccine, and ever since then he's been on a mission to uncover what needs to be looked at and trying to now not just in that sense but because he's a cardiologist, how statins are used willy-nilly, and that's not the answer either. So he's big into educating people how to be fit and how
What's a
to eat
statin?
healthily.
Need to
It's a
look it up.
drug that
Okay.
manages your cholesterol in your
Oh,
body
I see, I see, I see.
so that you don't get plaque building up and
Mm.
have heart attack, if you like. But the answer is it's for people to eat cleaner, get some exercise for that to become part of
Yeah,
their life rather than just a magic tablet.
get some niacin, vitamin B3. Get
Yeah.
some nice and flush, get red in the face. Anyway.
There's loads of other things that you can do. And he is educating on all of that. But because it's going against the mainstream, he's getting bashed left, right, and centre. But he's a
Right.
hugely intelligent bloke. You've got Dr. Zach Bush in the States there. I'm sure you've come across him. Amazing, man. Those are the leaders.
Hmm.
Those are the people that you aspire to listening to their intelligence
Yeah.
and speaking from their heart about what, a physician can look like. He's even dropped his MD part of his
And they, yeah,
being a
degree.
doctor
Yeah.
because he didn't want to be associated with the how that is at the minute.
Right, right, right.
Breaking
Um,
free and doing his own thing and educating people from that space instead.
you're
He's an incredible man.
you use a lot of different healing modalities. And and it's amazing because I've tried many different ones, and it's really something else. But a lot of times it's also very subtle. Like people don't realize something's worked until maybe much later, or somebody comments on it and stuff like that. So out of the maybe I'll put you on the spot here, but out of all of them, the healing modalities, uh which one impressed you the most when you first started working with it?
Probably body talk.
Yeah.
And especially 20 years ago, it was way ahead of its time. It was that and Psych K as well as has some similarities, and Dr. Joe Dispenza um, often, talks to both of those therapies as
Oh, really? Psyche. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
I've heard of it.
Psych K
Psyche.
and Body Talk. Um, Dr. John Veltime had an incredible brain,
The
a
founder of
huge ego and
BodyTalk.
a huge sense
Right.
of humor. So he was an Australian guy who lived in the States for most of his life. He died a couple of years ago, but he really birthed something that brought a lot of therapies together in one space and taught us to work intuitively by what's a priority for the person that's in front of you. So
Mm,
you're looking at, is it mental, emotional, physical, spiritual,
right.
energetic? What are their needs? And you are finding, say, what the priority is. You're looking at maybe where in the timeline that first arrived. Could be a past life, could be childhood, how old
Mm,
they were, who is the influence, the people around at that time, how that dis-ease or discomfort, or if it's in the mental body, is kind of showing up. And then you marry that with what can support that in the body. So it's whole healthcare.
mm,
So you kind of got an issue when it started, what might have been causative factors around this, and then what else in your body is coming in to support that. And you create this kind of formula where the body then can, and you're observing intuitively that it can shift
mm,
and heal things. And sometimes that can be subtle, and sometimes that somebody can have a huge, you know, outpouring of tears or express a virus, get a temperature, anger,
right.
uh, purging, and sometimes nothing like that. It's very subtle. Other people will be on the therapy couch having a
Oh
proper
my gosh.
through the energy,
Full. Yeah.
but those, then they're not. That's not always, and a lot of the times it's much more subtle. But you have to be in a space where somebody is able to hold that space for you
Mm,
and see, and you're working in the observer role in that bigger picture.
right.
You're not in he said, she said, but I can't change that because he's doing this. You're moving out of what are you responsible for. And one of the first things I say when I have a new client is that I'm not in the business of fixing anyone. It's a relationship that we build where I help them see who they are and what needs to change. It's like you're facilitating
Yeah.
their healing. You're not like, when I'm doing Rahanni healing, I'm not the healer. I'm channeling healing energy. You learn to be a good channel. It's not me, it's the energies coming through me
Mm,
as a vessel that I've learned to, develop the skill of that so that that goes wherever it's
yeah.
needed. It my ego out of the way then.
Could we do some demonstration, maybe 15 minutes of I don't know if it's possible to do 15 minutes of body talk. Would have to be well, I've done body talk before with people, so I know usually it takes more than 15 minutes. But would it be possible to do some
Yeah.
like yeah,
What now, you mean?
yeah,
So let me show you my cheat sheets.
for body talk? It's a big formula.
Whoop. I mean,
Ooh,
there are modules and modules and modules, and then more modules. So basically, and this is very old now, so it's all a bit dog-eared. So what we're doing is, this is like the M25
yeah.
uh, of your body, all the things that can come up and all the roads off, all the things you can go into, right down to the cells and atoms of what comes up for somebody. So it can go anywhere. When I'm working in therapy, it's kind of a bag of Suzanne now. It's very difficult to separate it from I'm doing just one thing, because often the other therapies will come
Will
in
want to come in,
too.
right? Okay.
Yeah. My means of driving this is that I'll be doing a muscle test. So some people do it like that's a yes and that's a no, and it gives. For me, I've got my hand on my lap and I'm just a yes and a no. That's a no, that's a yes. Yes just means I've found an item on here that needs further exploring. And then if it's a yes, I'm going into the box and I'm thinking, is it this? Is it this? Is it this? Is this? No, 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 yes. Further exploring into another. And you just keep going until you've got all the facets of what needs to be looked at.
Mm-hmm.
And you create a formula, basically. And then you tap it out. So we're tapping on the head, the heart, and the gut brain. So you've got three brains. Each have, their own neurons. You've got your habit brain in the head. So that's your antenna of your mind, which is out here, of what means something to you. It's like, oh, that's one of mine, that's one of mine. Well, that's a bit of my baggage, that's my belief system. All that happens and it feels like this in the body. So habit goes, oh, it's one of mine. This gets stuffed here when she has that experience, and that creates a this and a this and this memory and this sensation. So your habits, your
Mm.
supercomputer, the
One
brain in your head.
question.
Yeah,
When I did Body Talk Access in London in 2012, 13, they were taught us, because it's 1 day course, right? And they taught
yeah.
us to just tap here, and that was it. And now they've added the
Mm.
gut brain.
He added the gut brain
Yeah. Well, when
after
this
that.
happened, like 5 years ago or something?
No, more than that. It's probably 10 years ago,
Okay.
I think. Anyone watching this is a body talker. You can, yeah, say if it's different, but it's at least 8. If you because if you think the last 5 years, the COVID years, have gone by really quick, right? So eight
They have.
years, 2 years before, it's not very long, is it? So I
Yeah.
reckon it's about 10 years. And it makes sense for you to, because you've got the habit brain. What are you picking up from the field? And that replication of your RNA DNA, it's just like, oh, this happens, that happens, this happens, that happens, that's mine. Oh, this happens, that happens, and it just goes on in a chain of events. Then you've got your heart brain, your memory storage, your feeling sense, and what you carry in your, in that emotional sense.
Hmm.
And then your gut brain is the processing, what you're hanging on to, what you're letting go of, what needs to move through you or not. Is it stuck? So it makes sense for you to bring the energy of the three brains. Now, if you tap, you get and people, you ask them to breathe a bit deeper. When you're breathing properly, you get a standing wave of energy goes down your body, scanning itself. The tapping brings awareness to the part of the body you're in. If you're wired up, because Body Talk got tested in hospital conditions as well, with them wired up to ECGs and EEGs, and they were watching how the body shifted and changed depending on
Wow.
what was coming up. So
People
that was
need to
quite.
know that more because it seems like mainstream is not
There
like
are some
it's not
studies. If you go on the main Body Talk international website, there are some studies in there that you
right.
can look for. That's quite interesting because it really gives it that scientific basis as well.
Yeah.
So it's taken it out of someone thinking it's woo to having a scientific basis
Yeah.
of the consciousness of the body. You know, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't really like the name body talk, but it is what it does, what it
I,
says on the tin. You're talking to your body, finding out
I
what's
love the
going on.
name.
So then you've got your tapping, and that's so of just explaining a little bit about the process so that people know
Yeah.
why, you know, you're tapping and stuff, and I'm navigating to get the story. To start with our muscle test, and then I'm not really paying attention to the muscle test because I'm just getting pop-ups
Okay.
that are coming in. So
So
it kind
whatever
of,
comes up, it's okay. It's okay.
okay, all
Yeah.
right, you give me permission. Well, actually, the very first box on the body talk chart is permissions. So
Yeah.
then from a kind of energetic point, I'll know whether, yeah, I've got permission to work or not. So I'm asking, a permission's a priority, and it's no. So that tells me I've got permission.
Okay.
If it's yes, and I can then go into, is it me or is it you? Is it your mental, emotional, physical, spiritual? And if it's not right that for someone to work with me because they've got something medical going on, you check and send them to the right physician. If it's to the
Right.
doctors, hospital. So you kind of have these kind of checkpoints,
Yeah.
safety mechanisms within Body Talk, which is a good thing because again, we're not fixing people. We are facilitating what's best for them, what's a priority for that person, even if you're not going to earn your money for that hour. That's not the point. It's this person needs medical attention, or they need a chiropractor, or
Right.
whatever that is first. Okay, so just give me a minute. Okay, so we've gone into section 3, which is matrices. And we've gone into a fragmented matrix.
Okay.
So a matrix is an accumulation of energy in your body somewhere,
Ooh.
which has a kind of life of its own. So it's like a fragmented matrix has less parts to it. If it'd been a primary or secondary, it's like a, if you like, an octopus, an energy with all these tentacles that come off that have different reasons for that energy
Mm.
being sat in your body somewhere. The fragmented one has less components to it. So we've got 3. And let's just see where it is in your body. And it's in an endocrine, pituitary. So your pituitary gland is in the center of your head. It's the
Mm.
master endocrine that's responsible for organizing where all the hormones go. That's a very
Okay.
simple
Right.
explanation of pituitary's doing. So I'm just going to get my matrix sheets out. Do you have any issues with your pituitary gland at all? Is it anything you're aware of?
With my hormones,
Yeah.
what would that all affect? Would it affect your energy levels and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
I do.
Yeah.
Depends
Sometimes
what's
I'm
going on.
tired and all that, like yeah, or sometimes I am okay and then I just feel like I got hit by a truck or something. It hasn't happened in a while, but it does happen sometimes. Oh, actually, it did happen. It happened 2 days ago, actually, where I was all right. I didn't sleep that much that day, but still, it went from being okay to suddenly like crashing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the showing me that somehow this is outside energy being projected at you. So it's invasive energy from someone else.
Oh no. Okay. Somebody that I know, probably, probably
Maybe
we
we
shouldn't
don't always
ask.
have to get
Okay.
the ins and outs of that stuff, and it doesn't always mean it's something hugely bad. It's just that you're being affected by someone else's energy.
Okay.
And actually, this comes back to No. Family, no, but brother, yes. So somebody's like a brother that's not family.
Maybe my coworker,
Okay.
my manager, maybe
No, this is further back than that.
further back.
It's
A,
much.
a friend of mine that I know for a long time.
Yeah, someone who you would see as a brother, something that affected your energy way back.
Oh, somebody that's not a friend anymore.
Yeah. So we
Okay.
don't have to name names, but if you do you know who that is?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So there will have been a whole bunch of circumstances around that we don't need to go into. But the energy of that has affected you energetically in your energy levels and how you're and that's sat in your pituitary gland at the moment.
Okay.
That it's a
Wow.
fragmented matrix, so it's not a massive matrix, but it's enough to cause some interference, enough for you to be cautious or wary, or wounds that have needed to be healed, or things that never got resolved, whatever came from that is something that affected you,
Okay.
your mind, and then your physical, because that's what happens, right? It ends up in the physical body somewhere. We're going to move it
Right.
because it's time for that's just now a habit that's in there. And sometimes just making it conscious is enough for that to be kind of taken away.
Hmm.
All right. So let's just find out what the components of this are. So we are severing these attachments. So it means that sometimes there needs to be a reconnection or a healing or a repair. And but more often than not, when you've got an invasive energy in your system, it needs severing, it needs taken out. So that's not yours. That's something that's been projected at you, and there could
Okay.
be an element of you feeling victimized, but that's not the right word. Like there was some unfairness in there somewhere, something
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
not, and it played on your mind. So we need to sever that. That needs to go, because that's not who you are. That's who they are.
Right.
Because it's a projection at you, right? Okay, so let's see which ones it is. So we know it's sat in the pituitary. We've got the focus of the skin, which is about the environment, because your skin is how the environment enters into you. And we're going to sever in a word or two how that affected you. So in the environment out there of someone else affecting your energy, what words would you use for that?
Um, um, like a negative word, like something. Um, it was grief or suspicion, something like that.
Yeah. Feels like you if
Disrespect, maybe.
the words that are in my head is a false vision, like somebody's had a false view of you, something that wasn't.
Oh, yeah, probably. Um, yeah, yeah. It was an argument that then
Yeah.
I decided that was enough because it was unfair arguments, really.
There you go.
And
So unjust, unfairness.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And actually it's time to stop.
yeah,
Okay. So we're going to move that, because it's like when someone can't see where you're coming from and they're so blindsided they're not going to see it. Sometimes it's just the only thing you can do is walk away.
yeah.
Ultimately, you know who you are in your heart. You know what was right for you, and that's what matters. And they have their own healing to do. When you
Mm,
get into an argument, both parties then are getting defensive, and then we're both projecting. slinging blame, and actually we don't heal from that energy. We heal
Mm,
from thinking, well, I can't do anything about what they're doing, but I can heal my part in it. I can heal where I showed up to that and what I joined in with. You're healing the energy of that.
mm.
Um, so you probably get really triggered by things that are a bit unfair or unjust.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. So that potentially could be a little bit of an overreaction sometimes. So because of life experience with that. So
Sure.
when you move the energy out and you make it conscious, that energy then of overreacting to something will be a lot less. That's what you'll most likely notice from
Oh, that's
that.
good.
So we've got the skin, Marlin sheath, no. Blood, no. Nerve supply, no. Periosteum, yes. So this is belief systems and baggage that's come from this. Probably some wariness within you.
Yeah.
So that's being severed. And then we're going into the chakras, and we're actually going into a minor chakra. I've got the hands. And this is literal, the hands hanging on to something. When you look at the consciousness of each body part, you look at what's the function of that part of the body. So it
Right.
could be gripping, it could be letting go of stuff with the hands, it could be hanging on to something. In this instance, this energy hung on to for a while. So I'm not saying that's hugely active in your life now, but that's something that there's a seed in there still that needs to be removed. You needed to be aware that that was affecting you still.
It's funny because when I was in India, I went to a healer and she said that I have an evil eye on my third eye and she pulled it out. I wonder if that's similar or that's maybe something different.
The pituitary, that's your pineal gland.
Oh, okay.
So your pituitary sits in
Okay.
front
Right.
of
Okay.
that. Um, but it will have an impact on it. And there's always many layers to things, and people see
Mm,
things differently. So energetically, it's a um, other people will call it psychic attack.
right.
It's just different belief systems around what
Yeah.
words we use, the energy, really.
Mm,
So that might have been what she was seeing.
yeah.
So yeah. But we needed you to be conscious of it so that it takes the energy away of you overreacting to some things and noticing that's the case, and then not allow that, or in turn not allow your actual energy to get zapped.
Yeah.
So the behavior of that person, when we haven't resolved a behavior that's gone on, so let's just take the personal out of the actual person that was out of
Hmm.
it. It's the behavior you're affected by. Now, her, whichever, I don't know whether it was a him or her, behavior could have been a behavior that someone else had enacted in your life, that you were already triggered by that behavior
Right.
from someone, growing up or what have you. But the seed needs to come out from this particular person. And then when that behavior shows up in other people in your life from then on, you're not having it. And that energy coming from someone else will drain you.
Yeah.
So it's about not showing up to that story anymore and actually not getting on that bus anymore and going, oh, that's the trigger bus. And actually, no, I get it. I don't need to take part in this anymore. That's not my baggage. I'll step off again.
Right.
See it like your bus coming, like a trigger, and literally stepping out of that.
Mm,
Um, and then you're making conscious choices to not get involved, and you're not picking up the rope of that energy that affects you. It's that I'm not putting up with that, and I'm not having that people behaving like this. So I'm going to say this and this and stick up for myself. I'm making things up here because I'm not saying you're doing this. I'm giving you an example. But it's just so you don't have to bother with that energy anymore of having to do that. It's just like, well, that's not my shit.
right. Right.
I can see I had a part in that energy and that behavior effectively. But actually, that feels like a lot less of a reaction in me now, because I can see it coming, and now I'm making a conscious choice whether I'm going to get involved in that anymore, in that wound.
Yeah.
And you'll just see that it's behaviors, that it takes out the actual people. And you can see when the behaviors keep turning up, they're your lessons. It's never about the people that are delivering it. Those are the gifts of the people that are coming and giving you your lesson for you to get it
Right.
and understand that this is something you need to heal so that you don't have to show up to that energy anymore, right? I
Mm.
know you probably know all of this, but it's good to hear it and go over it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the three components. We've got the skin, we've got the periosteum, and we've got the hand chakras. And we're going to sever all of them. So I want you to hold here for me for your pituitary gland. And I'm going to hold for your skin. Is it the skin on your forehead? Yes, it is. I'm going to hold that for, and basically what I'm observing is actually the energy between this person. So I'm representing them and you being severed. All right. So it's like cutting cords. So in my mind's eye, we're severing that energy. And if you could tap as well, gently, making sure you get both sides of your brain, and breathe a bit deeper. You're tapping your chest as well. Tap your chest and then tap your tummy after that. So we're involving three brains, and I'm seeing that energy being severed from that part of the environment, that person, their skin, to your pituitary. Okay. So keep your hand where you've got it. Stop tapping.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to the periosteum. This bone here is what we're representing that with in your chest. So
Okay.
we're severing the energy from their invasive energy to you, from that part of the body to your pituitary gland.
Mm.
And then tap again.
Tap me tap
Yeah, you
or
can tap as well, or I can tap from here. It's always good to tap. And breathe. Okay. And then we're going to go for the hand chakras. And we're severing this energy from those hand chakras, person to you. And again, we're tapping on your head, your chest, and your tummy. And breathing. Okay. Relax. So I'm just asking if it's still a priority, and it's no. So keep your hand where it is for a minute. So we're going to dislodge this. Hang on. Something else is coming in here. Can you forgive this behavior?
at first I thought it was a no, but I can try. Yeah.
Okay. So hold your forehead again. And I want you to imagine that you are bringing this ball of energy. We've taken those tentacles out that are connected to that.
Yeah.
And I want you to just move this down. Just imagine it coming through your head, moving that down into your heart, and then just sit with that energy and see whether you're able to forgive and dissolve. Let's just see how that feels.
Whoa. That feels strange.
Mm. Are you able to move it down?
Yeah. Yeah, it's done.
So
Mm.
get a hold of it, move it. Remember that you are forgiving the behavior that shows up.
Mm. Yeah, it's yeah, it feels pretty good. A bit emotional actually. Um,
Yes. So move your hand literally down your face to your heart and see whether you can. How's it feeling there?
um, at first it was more intense. Now it's kind of settling down. Kind of.
Okay, so let that dissolve. So hold your hand there until you feel like that energy is dissolved.
Hmm. Wow, that was a weird sensation. It's still
Mm.
going on a little bit, maybe.
Okay, so just sit with that for a minute.
Hmm. Okay.
Just checking that that's gone. Still a priority? No. So we're going to tap out your cortices now. Do you feel like that's dissolved?
Yeah, it's more at peace,
Okay.
whatever it was.
So forgiveness is for you to be settled in your heart. It's for you to
Yeah,
feel comfortable, right? So you don't have to have this energy coming at you anymore and that you're reacting to it because you'll
yeah,
notice it. So now I want you to tap out your cortices. So hand at the back of your skull
yep.
and tapping on your head, your chest and your tummy. So you remember this from
I know this,
access.
yes.
Yeah. So go through the process of tapping out cortices.
You have to breathe twice, right?
Yeah, just bringing it into brain balance, breathing twice. And keep moving your hand forward until you get all the way to your forehead. There's a big yawn in there still to come. Put your hands on the side of your head. Take one off, but imagine it is still on the side of your head. And again, tap and breathe. And then repeat with the other side. Put your hand back and take the other
Really?
hand.
Oh, wow. You're the only one that I know that does that.
Mm. I like to be thorough.
Yeah, I've never seen that before. That was good.
It feels balanced to me to do both sides. And
Yeah.
just place your hand, just place both your hands back on the sides, just as an
Okay.
affirming that that's balanced, it's done with a good
Mm,
yawn.
yeah, it's good.
Okay, so does this area need to be reconnected to anyway? Yes, it does. So we're just creating a connection between your pituitary
Sorry, I
and your
thought it
heart.
was gonna be a quick one, but I'm not complaining. It's good.
Sorry, got carried
It's
away.
good.
Everyone just tap that out, reconnecting your
It's
pituitary
good.
to your
Good
heart.
podcast.
Um,
So they were not connected before.
Energetically, there was a disconnect
Ah,
because you couldn't find your heart in that and your forgiveness in that and how much more healthy that would be for you to be able to let that go.
yeah,
But you needed to get it and know that it's behavior and not
yeah,
person or personal to you. It's just the behavior that needed out and was in the room.
right.
And we, throw arrows at people. Is there anything else? Does it need to be individuated? Yes. Okay, so just hold your pituitary, your heart. We're nearly done.
Oh wait. Oh, heart holding your. Sorry. Yes.
Just tap that. So priority, no. Is there anything else we need to do? No. End of session, yes. We're done. Body talk goes where body talk goes. I have never got any idea what's going to show
Yeah.
up. That could be anything. They could have done something completely different to that.
Wow. You know, when you did the first tap, they felt like some lightness, almost like here or something on the side. That's the way I felt it.
And that
So
really shows you that we're energy bodies, and the
yeah.
energy can shift really easily if you can see what needs to move.
So this was so one was affecting the skin and the other one was your like hands. But this kind of could have
Hand
affected a lot of
chakras,
things. Okay.
and the bone here is about, the periosteum is about belief systems and storing that belief and energy in your body.
Right.
So
Wow.
what we've done is that from those places, the skin represents the environment. So from that person, the environment, that energy that came from them and from their hands and from their periosteum, to sever that energy that was fired at you, so
Hmm.
that that's their energy belongs to them, your energy now belongs to you, and that it's about the behavior energy that showed up and not
Yeah.
anything really to do with
Right.
personal people. It's a behavior trigger,
So behavior
and
trigger.
that person would have been triggered by you too.
Obviously, yeah. Oh my
And
gosh.
actually, they may have some semblance of healing from that distantly, although we're not healing them directly because I didn't have permission, obviously, to do that with them, but it will
Yeah.
make a difference. And sometimes people, you might see them pop up somewhere. Don't be surprised.
Okay.
And you
Um,
may feel differently.
yeah, I'm already seeing some shift in some way. But it's true that the trigger of being treated unfairly and all that, because this some of that was in my family too, and I wouldn't know how to deal with it, and it would affect me very deeply, you know. So that's something
And
that
actually, it will go to, when, especially if you're doing a live body talk demonstration, it will go to the part of the timeline of behavior that you're triggered by, that's what you can manage in this environment right now.
what do you mean?
So there's a timeline of the behavior and the
Yeah.
unfair and unjustness, and it will have links to probably that started when you were younger. But because they're more painful, you've gone from an easier point of reference
Oh,
to
I
pull
see.
that thread out. But it'll have a healing through the whole timeline, because you'll see how you're not going to show up to the energy of how you're affected by that anymore.
Oh,
See your
that
trigger coming and you'll notice the bus and you'll think, am I getting on that or not?
hmm.
Can I forgive that? Can I see a bigger picture of that? Can I see
Yeah.
that behavior is one of my lessons for me to not show up to anymore, and love myself enough that I know myself well enough that I don't have to take what other people project at me.
Wow.
Mm.
That's a really profound thing that we did. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
Um
that will just unravel somehow. You'll have to let me know. You never know. That's just the start of the energy shifting. So we'll see.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool. And you do so much more, not just body talk. Can you do Psyche as well? One of my friends is was
No,
doing
I don't
Psyche.
use Psych, but I do know some of the
Okay.
techniques. They overlap a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similarities, and the divine healing again, which I think you've probably, have you had a divine healing session with anyone?
No. What is it?
Similar again to body talk, you just have loads of different charts and you're reading command codes to shift the energy. So it's a definite statement. But again, you are creating picture of what's going on for this person and where's the healing need to come in.
Is it using um like God's energy? What is the gist of the how it works?
Yeah, it is. You are, yeah, tuning into that, or use the word God within the practice. But I always say to people that the word God is whatever that means to you, whether people call it the Divine Mother, the Godhead, Source. It's the word for that universal
Yeah,
energy. So yeah,
cool.
we are plugging into that when we're working with divine healing. Divine healing is more spiritual in its nature than body talk.
Mm,
So bringing the two together is good. Works really well. The blend works really well.
mm,
So yeah,
awesome.
and I navigate with body talk because that's how, it's easier. That's how I navigate. I use the muscle testing.
Yeah. It's such a profound technique. People don't realize the muscle testing is such a if you can do it well, it's such an amazing tool to use.
And it's a plug into your intuition is all you're really doing. The same as, I could read my tarot cards. It's a plug into the intuition of what's in the room. And then it's another tool.
Right.
Pendulums. Some people use pendulums. I've got one. I don't use my pendulum very much. I have got one. It's beautiful.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Mm. So, they're tools, but they
Mm,
help you tap into your intuition, basically, is what they're doing. The muscle testing is about you navigating intuitively.
yeah.
And some people who are very left-brained really struggle with the navigating aspect when they're first learning body talk.
Yeah. But I think you have to be it's probably ideal if you're on some kind of a spiritual journey. Otherwise, it doesn't seem to me like body talk would make much sense to you. I mean, it could.
I think it would just take longer to get it intuitive. There's lots of doctors actually that actually practice body talk because of the scientific
Yeah.
basis to it. And it's taught them to work with their intuition and get out of their left brain, which is a good thing. So then in practice, navigating with a more balanced left, right, creative logic
Right.
approach to actually seeing a person in front of them and reading their energy rather than what it said in the book.
Hmm.
So there's
All
a whole
right.
process. Yeah. But that's why I teach the other classes to help people develop their intuition, because especially
Oh,
therapists, you've
so
got to
yeah, that's
tap into
okay.
that.
Let's tap into that. I'm a little mindful of time because I know it's more than an hour and a half. So maybe
Yeah,
a
yeah.
last thing.
Well, over.
Um,
Sorry, everyone who's watching this, if you're still awake.
they get no, it's not live. I'll post it later. Yeah, but it's psychic. I've had a few psychics on the podcast. But you say you can people can learn it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
and you offer like a course
Yeah,
for
they're
them
normally
to.
seven sessions. They're 2 hours long.
Okay.
And the one I'm running at the moment, we're about to do class 3, I think,
Okay.
tomorrow. And there'll be another 4 after that, and then that round is done. And then I've got a few that have been through the first one, and then I'll take them on to a more advanced,
Yeah.
sort of pushing in deeper to the topics that we've gone into. And then a bit later in the year, start a new class again. So you're just rolling it around. I teach tarot as well. That's fun.
So where can
Quite like
people
it.
find you if they want to find you?
So probably my business page, there's Suzanne Jane Marie Brooker on Facebook,
Yep.
or soulfrequencies.co.uk is my website. Needs a
Mm-hmm.
bit of updating, but all the information about me is on there.
Cool. All right there. Well, I think this is
Thanks,
a
Matt.
good place to stop.
Yeah.
Suzanne Brooker, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. If you watch the whole thing, is long.
Yeah.
Or if you
Thank you.
watch part
Thank
of
you
it,
if you got this far.
or if you watch part of it, it's all good. I'm gonna put your links underneath the video. Thank you so much for being
Okay.
on the podcast.
Thanks, Matt. That's great. Thank you.